Hey, what's going on? Welcome in, everybody. Let me get my mic level set here. I think that's a little bit better. Welcome to my channel where we discuss doing in home elderly care for an aging loved one. Like I always say, it seems like it most likely will be aging loved one. Could be anybody, though, could be somebody that just needs that help. And you've got to figure out how to construct a lifestyle and a platform to be able to have their care needs met within the house. Again, this is not working or the proverbial putting them in a home. Okay, this is doing it, working out an arrangement that best meets the needs or appropriately meets the needs of the customer so that you can do this for them at home, whether it be your home or their home. And I used the case study of my grandmother, Ruth C. Kenton, who I cared for several years up into her death. And we did that at her home. And I think if you can do it that way, that's usually the best because the customer is going to be more acquainted with their own house than they will be your house. Even if they frequent your house, it's still not the same as their house. And her and John, my late grandfather, lived in that house. I'd say it was 70 years or so, or maybe it was 60 when John died, and then 70 plus when Ruth died. And yeah, that's what we do. We look at these situations and kind of work through some of the steps, or what I do is I present steps of what I was presented with and how we work through them, both me individually and then as a family, and then working with the customer, making sure that they're getting the care that they need all the way up until term. And it was quite the process, and I'm sure you're going to find it's going to be quite the process for yourself. And in these videos, I've been going through a series of items which I continue to expand on because really this is a never-ending conversation, a never-ending list of things that need to be taken into consideration, or things that need to be implemented, or changes that need to be made. It just continues to be an ever-evolving thing. And what we're going to talk about tonight is having additional support for the customer. So this is something, speaking of an evolution of things, this is something that definitely was an evolution through the years. So I know I've spoke on this at some point in earlier videos, but starting with my grandfather dying, that was the real inciting incident that kicked off this whole process, that put our family in a situation where we knew that something would need to happen in order to best support Ruth. And at first, it wasn't terribly overwhelming. You know, she struggled with a lot of loneliness, and so we were always trying to be conscious of that. And ultimately, it put it boiled down to being in a position where she had somebody to stay with her at night, or she would stay with somebody in the family at night. But the nighttime was always the biggest struggle for her, and just in general, that reminds me of a memory that I don't know if I've mentioned here before or not, but she would say around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, she would say, "It feels like the world is closing in on me," and that has to be a difficult experience to have that sensation. And one of the things we used to mitigate that was to have somebody with her. It was, again, very low maintenance, other than someone just having to physically be there with her or to take her in for the evening. But she was able to, care for herself otherwise. Her vision had not left her at that point. Her hearing was okay, but still she was functional. She could get around. It wasn't terribly taxing, especially in comparison to the way things ended up evolving into. Okay, so taking it from that point, moving it forward, that was fine for a couple of years. Then her condition began to worsen, and she needed somebody to be with her at home during the day and also at night. And basically, the way that that worked for our family is her housekeeper, a lady who started out as her housekeeper, would come a couple of times a week. And then Ruth started asking her to come every day. Okay. And I remember she pulled me aside one time and she said, John Mario, that's what Ruth called me. She said, the, um, the lady told me, she said, I don't have anything to clean. There's nothing for me to do. And I said, I don't care. We'll pay you. Just be here with her. That's the main thing. We would rather, in that situation specifically, if it came down to, hey, I can either be here or I can clean the house, we would say, we don't care if you clean a thing. We just want you here with her, because that's the bigger issue at hand. That's what we're trying to mitigate against, is the um, sensations of depression and loneliness that she was experiencing at that time, and just doing everything we can to push that back as much as possible. That was definitely the goal at that point. And then her daughter, she had these two daughters that we'll talk about here in a moment, who would come and stay with her a couple nights a week. And so they started staying with her. I think at first it was like 4 nights a week. Then she asked them if they could stay 5. Then she asked them, this is Ruth. Then Ruth asked them if they could stay 1 night over the weekend. And then she eventually asked them if they could stay every night of the week. And I think it was about a 2-year progression or so from when that deal was first put together and implemented, at 4 nights a week, from when it turned to 7 nights a week. And from the point that that they were staying there 7 nights a week, and their mother was coming during the day every Monday through Friday, it was about over 5 years or so that they did that, until Ruth died. They did it every night. It was crazy. Even Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, everything. They did that. On their birthdays, they did that. And I was there to provide additional support for all of that. But the way things had worked out is I was not able to commit to be there every night of the week. So I would be there, or even during the day, because I was running my career and working, and it's just overwhelming. There's no one person that can do it by themselves without having to give their entire life to it, or experiencing burnout, or resentment against the customer. And then when you're faced with that, then you're just not posturing the customer to have the best care that they possibly can. So even at that, we had somebody coming every day during the day, and then somebody coming at night every night to stay with her. And still her conditions began to worsen. And we had to take on more help. We added one more person. Then we added another person. Then we added it was this revolving or evolving situation where we just continually had to bring more people in so that Ruth could be taken care of, because her conditions ultimately led to a place where she was bedridden. She was not able to get up by herself. She was not able to go to the bathroom by herself. She was not able to wash herself. She was not able to change her clothes. She was not able to prepare food. And then ultimately, in those last couple of months, she needed to be fed. She was not able to feed herself. So we had to continually up the ante and make our effort match the need of the customer, of the best possible the best posturing for the customer. So what I want to do here, I usually throw up slides as I'm saying all this stuff. I don't have like a slide per se of bullet points tonight, but what I'm going to do is throw up the slide. Let me go to my slides here. Boom. What I'm going to do is throw up the slide that represents the schedule that we kept for her, which is this right here. And it looks like my picture's going to cut that out. Let me see if I can lose my picture real quick. One moment. Boom. And boom. There we go. Okay. So you can't see me, but you can see the slide. So this is what we had going on for her. And you see I've got all 7 days of the week. The way that we had this schedule worked out was we had a 9:30 a.m. to a 3:30 shift, which we called the day shift. Then we had a 3:30 to a 7:30, which we called the afternoon shift, and then we had the overnight shift. Okay, so most days were going to be done by Raquel. Okay, and you can see that Monday through Friday we've got Raquel's name. That is the mother. That is the lady who ultimately, her and her daughters became really good friends with our family. She is the one who started out as Ruth's housekeeper and then ultimately became one of her primary caretakers. And just a amazing woman with just the heart of service and care. And she told me one time, because I would ask her, she speaks Spanish and I speak Spanish as well, and I asked her one time, where does this come from, this desire to care for her? And she said, well, she was here in the States, and her grandmother was in Mexico, and she was not able to care for her grandmother. She wasn't able to be there with her when she died. So she looked at it as the same care she would have given her own family had she been able to be there for them, which I thought was just really cool and something that sticks out in my mind about that situation and the time that they spent with Ruth. So starting with, we'll start with Monday. I know I've got it set up. Sunday's first day of the week. I get all of that, but we'll start out with Monday. So Monday, Raquel would be with her all day. Then Monday afternoon, it would be Alice. Alice is Ruth's sister-in-law. So Alice's husband, Billy, was brothers with John, Ruth's late husband, and they really did a lot to take care of her. So Alice would come in the afternoon, and at night I've got the girls there because Raquel's daughters, Jessica and Zyra, would split that up amongst themselves and come and stay with her overnight. And during the day, it's more active, of course. You're feeding Ruth or taking her to the bathroom. She was on a diuretic pretty much I don't know how long she was on it. She's probably on it for like 10 years or so. But it only really came to our attention when she would need help going to the bathroom. And so we would schedule out the days that she was going to be taking the diuretic because we knew that there would be more up and down during the day. But essentially, Raquel would come in if she didn't have breakfast already, which sometimes Ruth would get up. We talked about establishing routines in general, but specifically meal routines. If Ruth hadn't eaten, which could have been the case because some of the medications she took, she had to take right when she got up, and she was not able to eat anything when she first took that medication. You know what? Give me a second here. I am gonna put my picture up. It's just better that way. And then when I get to the bottom corner, I'll lose it again. So if she hadn't eaten, Raquel would make her breakfast. Raquel would help get her washed and dressed. Whatever needed to be done, take her to the bathroom, sit her down on the couch, which is where she spent most of her time with the dogs. And Raquel would go about doing whatever she needed to do around the house for the day. She was also very adamant about, Raquel was adamant about helping Ruth, but also cleaning. So she was also there and like cleaning and staying busy. Just a complete, we hit the lottery with getting that family involved. We absolutely hit the lottery. Ruth definitely hit the lottery. But it was just such a tremendous support for us. And then in the afternoon, Alice would come 3:30 to 7:30. So if Ruth wanted a snack, or that also falls during the dinner meal time, Alice would do that for her. Alice would assist her to the bathroom. Alice would read to her. Ruth was faith based. Alice is faith based. Alice would read the Bible to her. Alice would read her just daily. Um, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Daily, not affirmations, but devotional. That's the word I'm looking for. She would read daily devotionals to her and just talk to her about whatever it is. And the really cool thing about Alice that's different with some of the conversations with some of the other ladies that are listed here, um, is that Alice and Ruth have known each other 50 years. So, I mean, if not longer. So they could talk about the old days. They could talk about old Fuquay or old Willow Spring, or, some new business in town, something that's changing. They knew the same people. So they really had a connection on that level. And that's important as well for the customer. With everyone else that we brought in, there's, kind of a period of getting warmed up to. And actually, Ruth was very familiar with Raquel and her daughters, when they actually started caring for her, because she'd already seen them and been familiar with them because they had been assisting her care for the house for years. But even still, it's not the same as, someone in the family or someone that you have a deep rooted connection with. And so Alice was really able to do that with Ruth and manage that well. And then in the evening, overnight, around 7:30 or so, and we would watch Jeopardy about every night, which comes on at 7 p.m. Eastern in North Carolina, in that part of North Carolina. One of the girls would show up, either Zyra or Jessica, and they would hang out with Ruth until she was ready to go to bed, which was maybe like an hour or so, so not too much. And then they would get her medications and take her to the bathroom and get her changed if she wasn't already changed, and then help her into bed. Ruth had this routine of the way that she wanted to take her glasses off and put them down, and the way she wanted to take her hearing aids out and put them down, and the way that she wanted to take her medications, and then the way that she wanted to lay in bed. I mean, it was all very routine and specific, and I think that was a comfort factor for her, to know that she was able to keep that routine and that the girls would be there to support her in that process, and they knew it too, and they were always great about it. Then overnight, what we eventually did is we put a baby monitor in Ruth's bedroom so that we would be able to hear her. So whoever was there for the night, if it's Zyra or Jessica, or if they weren't available and I was there, I would keep the baby monitor, or my sister would, whoever was there with her. And then if Ruth needed us, she could just call to us. And most of the time she would just call because she needed to go to the bathroom, or really that's the main thing. I mean, there were a couple of times where she called for she wasn't feeling well, and we said, all right, or she just, and then most of the time the way that situation worked out is, it'd be 3 a.m. She'd call somebody, I'm not feeling well. Okay, well, let's put you on the couch. Let's get you upright and sit you down, and let's give it a couple of hours before we escalate. And then around 6 or 7 a.m., you're putting her in the car and taking her to the emergency department. So, several different times that was the situation. But for the most part, for the overwhelming most part, it was like, hey, I just need to go to the bathroom. So one of the girls would assist her, or again, be myself or my sister, whoever it is, and we would do that. And so that was the routine Monday through Friday. Okay. And then on the weekends, again, you don't want to burn these people out. There comes a point where it doesn't matter what you're getting paid. You got to have a life for yourself. You can't get burnt out. You can't feel trapped. So we kept Raquel and Alice's schedule as a, Monday through Friday type deal. And then on the weekends, we had different personnel come in. And the thing about the overnight, it's the girls, but they're always alternating, or they would just make arrangements with themselves based off of what they wanted to do. So maybe one girl would come 3 nights a week and the other one would do 4. They do one on one, and switch it up between them. And then whenever they went out of town or had other things planned, me or my sister would just arrange that we would be there with her overnight, or if that was the case, because there were a couple of times as well where the girls weren't available, I'm not available, my sister's not available. Okay, so now we're going down the list of all the personnel here to see who can actually cover the shift, just like you would at any business or anything else, except this thing is a 24/7 deal, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, then on Saturday, a lady from actually all three of the other ladies I met at church, Brenda would come Saturday mornings. Then Mary Jane would come Saturday afternoons, and then the girls would also cover the night shift on Saturday. And then Sunday, the girls would actually stay with Ruth. So it would be a thing where the girls would get up and help Ruth up and get her situated, and then maybe they would step away for an hour or so to go home. And most of the time I was there, and I would be able just to like stay with Ruth for that hour. Or even maybe there were some times as well where we felt if Ruth got up and she used the bathroom and she got something to eat and she took her medications, it was a pretty safe bet that she would be okay for that hour. She'd be okay, you know, just for a short stint by herself, but not anything longer than that. I'd say an hour, maybe two is your max. Um, yeah, and so they would actually come back and stay with her Sunday during the day. And then Janet, another lady I met at church, would come and stay with her in the afternoon. And then the girls would be back. One of the girls would be back in the evening. Um, this schedule that you're seeing, and I could do a whole other video just about trying to find personnel. I mean, it took, well, first of all, Ruth's condition wasn't always as bad where she needed this type of schedule the whole time. This is really what you're seeing is a final product schedule that suited the last year that she was alive. It was really that last year that she was alive that we had to build out an entire schedule like this, and there really got to the point where there was no period where Ruth could be left alone. Like I said, Sunday mornings, maybe she had an hour, two at max by herself, but outside of that, always somebody there with her for that last year. And trying to find different personnel that was interested in helping or available to help or had the right spirit for it was a challenge. And then also on top of that, you're only looking at maybe half of the possible candidates that you could look at for any other job because you want it to be a girl. I'd say you want it to be a girl regardless of the gender of the customer, but because Ruth was a girl, you want it to be a girl. That's what she's going to be most comfortable with, absolutely. And I said I would lose that picture. Let me lose that picture real quick, just so you're able to see. Yeah, yeah. See that bottom corner for Friday and Saturday night. The girls, and they were great. Everyone on the schedule, we could not have asked for more. They did such a tremendous job working with us and helping Ruth. And it was tough and challenging, and all of those adjectives I could say about it. It was a whole bunch and expensive as well. We didn't even get into that part. But that's ultimately the way things developed in order for Ruth to have the care that she needed at the end. And so, I don't know what situation you're being faced with, but there's a high probability that at some point you will need to expand the level of care, the lift, the just the overall amount of people to be involved. And we've talked about the idea of stakeholders and things like that. I don't know if, yeah, I mean, we could call these people stakeholders. They're just not stakeholders in the more traditional sense, meaning that they have legal implications, or they're just making decisions. If there was something that came up or whatever, they would come to us to figure out the decision on. So, yeah. like I said, I could go into a whole video talking more about what they were doing for Ruth at the time, the financial piece of it, more about how it actually evolved over time. I just went through 10 years of history, in 20 minutes or however long I've been speaking. The last slide, as you know, questions, email me, Mario at the Alpha Italian. Give me your name and location. Let me know who you are so I can put it on and answer them here on the live broadcast. So, thank you for watching this. Check out the other videos, and I'll be on to do another one next week. Bye.